Hey everyone, and welcome back to Corey's Cast. This week on the podcast, I have my mom back with me. Last week's episode was really, really good as we recapped what was going on at the Houston Quilt Show this past year.
Yes.
And y'all demanded that she came back. They loved you.
I'm not sure if it was a demand, but hey,
It was a demand.
I enjoyed doing it with you. And I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, why not? We have a great topic to talk about. Let's do one.
Okay, so here's the tea. Normally on my podcast, I'm the one that creates the topic, or production creates the topic and lets me know what the topic is. And then I inform the guest ahead of time with some questions that I will be asking them. Production decided that since production was going to be on the podcast today, that production would keep the topic from me until a few minutes ago and just get my real-time reaction. So we're going to see how this podcast goes.
Exactly. So we're excited to have everyone join us today, and we
course.
hope that you enjoy our topic, and then can definitely put some feedback in there about things that you've run across about on the topic like this.
For sure. Before we get started, as always, please make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Mm-hmm. If you're listening to this on platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, please make sure you're following those specific channels as well for Corey's Cast so you can get real-time notifications when new podcasts are released.
Exactly. And isn't that exciting, just to roll those off the tongue? You should be proud of yourself.
I am proud. A lot is going on. There's a lot of work to get there, but I'm excited to be accepted on the Apple Podcast platform and Spotify platform. That is just cool. iHeart, Amazon, that's just cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. So congrats on that.
Thanks, Mom.
Speaking of that, I think today's topic that I wanted to throw at us is how a hobby for you became a job.
Okay.
And where the job for me, because it started off so long ago, eventually became a hobby.
Okay.
And how to find that balance. Right? Because sometimes when we are, whether it's your hobby became your job became your hobby, it really doesn't matter what the hobby is. We're going to be talking about quilting, but whatever your hobby could have been.
Right.
How to find that balance so you can still enjoy the hobby.
I think that's the part when you brought up this topic, the not difficult part, but I spend a lot of time, we all as a team spend a lot of time helping grow the brand. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can lose that passion that you have for your actual hobby because you're spending so much time on your job. Mm-hmm. But then it conflicts you because you care more about the passion of the hobby than sometimes you do about statistics of the job. So it's a very interesting topic, and it's something that I've had a hard time wrapping my head around, and it's something that I've had to spend a lot of time thinking about and getting over mentally, that you can do both. You just have to find that balance.
Exactly. And as a mom watching you, I've seen you struggle with those things where the hobby that you fell in love with when Linda had you there cleaning the tables and then got you up on the long arms to play when you were 8.
Right.
To wanting to do more, right?
Yeah.
Than teaching yourself the machine and teaching yourself the computerized and just doing all the stuff that you did. You just loved it. And then when it became this has to be your full-time job because now you're an adult.
I
so you got
to have adult bills,
Yeah.
and I don't want those. I wish I could go back. I grew up all the time saying, I want to be an adult. I'm tired of being a kid. I'm tired of my mom telling me what to do. She still tells me what to do. But I'm tired of my mom telling me what to do. I'm tired of my dad telling me what to do. I want to grow up. I want to go back.
Yeah.
They can tell me what to do. It's fine.
Those bills are real, aren't
they? And a little backstory. You touched on a fun, totally off topic, but y'all know I like to squirrel. You touched on a funny beginning story of how I got into this.
Yeah.
When my mom first got the job here at Linda's eons ago, we're just gonna get into this. We didn't have a ton of money, and my daycare was coming up to Linda's after school, basically. I say after school care, not daycare, after school care. And I was one of the only children that were allowed there. And to keep me occupado, Linda had me go over while she was running classes and stuff and dust the machines, because getting underneath those long arm tables can be a little difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was, a little munchkin.
A little tyke at that
so
point.
I could go in there and dust the machines, and then she would pay me $1. And I was so proud.
Yeah,
I got my $1. I don't know what I spent it on, but I got my $1 every time. And it was super exciting. And it's just crazy to think how far we've come off of that and
Exactly.
becoming into a full-blown
Well, speaking
career.
of, it's funny though too because I remember you getting that $1, but I also remember you asking her for a raise to $2.
I sure did ask her for a raise. Yes, negotiations were taking place. There were a lot of long arms. I was the original Shark Tank.
So, but yeah, so that, again, that's where when she got you up on it was a smaller 18-inch throat at that point, and let you play on there, you fell in love with it.
Right.
And I think that's when a passion for Corey was born.
Oh.
And that's when it was like whenever he could get on the machine or do stuff, and whether it was at a show or whether he's up at the office, he wanted to get on that machine and play. Yeah. And that's when that passion kicked in.
It really did.
The hobby came, and that's where we are today, right?
Right.
This hobby, and then when you started having to work, and it was like, okay, when do I have time to quilt? I'm like, you don't have time right now. We have to do this. We have to do that. And it became not fun for Corey.
I say not fun. I am very, very fortunate and very, very happy and very, very blessed to have the life, the career, and the job that I have now. But when you have something that I don't really think I've ever talked about how quilting became such a passion for me, and maybe that can be another topic, but just like a segmented portion of it. Yeah. And Mom knows a lot of it. Growing up, I was bullied mercilessly, like all the time going through school. So quilting was my safe space that I could come to, and it's such a welcoming, creative community that you could come in and do whatever you wanted to do. And there's really no rules in quilting, which I really like. Yeah. And this was the spot where this was home and this was easy. And I say easy, like I could just be whoever I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. And it was really, really nice in that way. So when you have something that drives your just like full soul, like passion wise, like you're so like safe and comfortable in it.
Yeah.
When you have to step out of that and worry about statistics and followers and this and that, it gets to be a little not fun. But the analytical side of my brain it is fun. Like spreadsheets and numbers like that is fun. But like when you have something that is your whole purpose, like you found your purpose in life, and then you've got to step out of that and go sit at your computer and respond to emails, like that becomes meh. But in the grand scheme of things, all of it's fun. But it's finding that balance to where both can be fun.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And I think to simplify it is, if you've ever been to our store, we would be in the office area working where the long arms were just within eye distance, and he couldn't get on them and use them because we were so focused on work.
It was so hard.
Which was really important. We needed to do that. So, and that's just kind of when you're looking at your hobby right there and you can't get to it, and that becomes a job.
All I had to do was peek over my monitor, and I could see all of the long arms. I was like, that's where I want to be. And any second she turned her head, I'd get up and go to the machines. And then she'd come up and get me like, did you finish this project? Did you finish this? No, I don't want to talk about receiving in thread right now. I want to quilt.
Yeah.
She's like, well, you got to receive in thread so then you can quilt.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry. I know I squirreled there, but I think it's an interesting topic too.
That's okay.
You really have to get to the root cause.
It is. It's fine. It's finding the balance because at the end of the day, it's about being happy and finding that happiness, right?
Right.
Where for me, in 2001 when I joined, it was a job. It was a survival mechanism for me because I was a single mom at that time with Corey. And how was I going to pay the bills and put food in his stomach, right? How was I going to pay, the mortgage and the water bill and just everything? Whether you were a single mom or you just didn't have a lot of money as a married couple, back in the day it was hard for a lot of people, right? And it still is today. But I mean, it was just like penny to penny to penny to penny, trying to figure out like how I was going to. I don't even know if I want to scroll into this because I'll get emotional. So maybe I won't.
I will say it for you. My mom doesn't give herself enough kudos because she will cry on camera. But to really get an insight into our lives, if you care to hear about them, I'm going to tell you because it's my platform. I can do what I want. Mom doesn't get enough credit. She was able to keep a roof over my head, food in my belly, the TV on, the electricity on, water on, go to work, take me back and forth to my father's, which was a billion hours away, every other weekend. Just be at my events, do this, do that, go to shows. And I never knew that she was living penny to penny. Like, she never showed it. I thought we were millionaires. I wouldn't have known. And she was able to do that. But that was where she had to kick into survival mode, and this was a job. She had to get in there and figure out how she was going to take care of me, Like, she would still take me on vacation. I didn't know that that was the last penny that she had. Like, it's amazing. Like, for single parents in general, I think are incredible. But like, my mom is the best. So, but it's insane, like how she went in for a job and she brought me in, and it was a passion of mine. Like, but it wasn't really a passion of hers at the time. It was I have to take care of Corey. I've got to do what I've got to do. And the opportunity presented herself to work at Linda's. And we will be forever grateful for Linda V. Taylor and Rick Taylor. Because they pulled us out of something I didn't know we were in, but they pulled us out of something. And we've turned it into it's incredible. Like, I will always be eternally grateful for them. Because you went in there with no quilting knowledge whatsoever. And she learned it. She did the dang thing.
No, I couldn't. I was there, I think, day 2, and the phone was ringing. And they were all busy with customers, and they were like, "Oh, Diane, you got to answer the phone." And I've answered phones before, but not at a quilting store, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, I just answered it, and they asked me if we had a cone of Mother Goose signature in stock. I had no clue what a cone was. I was like, a cone. So, of course, you're not going to let them know you don't know. So you put them on hold, and I think it was Alicia at the time, and I was like, what are they talking about? What is a cone? And then they all laughed. And they're like, it's a cone of thread. And I went, oh. So from that, I made it my mission to learn everything that you needed to know about quilting, about the threads, about everything possibly that you needed to know. So that way I could always have the correct information for our customer.
Right.
So for years, again, it was just job, learn it all, be able to help everybody, do what I need to do, take care of my family. Then eventually I did remarry to an amazing man, Darren, and then I had Ryan, and that's another story.
That's a whole nother topic.
But I was dedicated to learn it all for 2 reasons. I'm kind of a perfectionist in a way where I want to always make sure I'm giving the right information.
Kind of, really. Hold on, newsflash! I need to put out a press release. You're a perfectionist? Wow! The more you know. Yeah. At Corey's Cast.
There you go. Yeah. And it had everything to do with I just always wanted to make sure everything was correct and valid for the customer. But when you do that, again, you're working, right? That's all your job, just like you were talking about. And then as I was starting to go to shows, like we talked about last week, and I started seeing these quilts, and I started meeting all these students and coming in to be taught by Linda and their stories, and they came from all over the world back then.
Right.
And just everything you would learn. And then we had a bed and breakfast back then. So then you would be there at night with them sometimes, and you'd be there in the morning to help them get up for breakfast. And you just got to learn so much. Then I could see the joy that it brought them. And I'm like, oh, I want to learn a little bit more about this. I want to actually get on the machine. I didn't have a lot of time. So I made my first quilt, and I made it for Darren's mom, actually. Yeah. And then I made the second quilt, I think, for my mom. But then I didn't get back on the machine for years after that because it just became busier and busier, which was a blessing. We need, for the business as we were growing. And then when we eventually purchased the business in 2012, Darren and it gave me more time to get on the machine a little bit more, but then work more, right?
It was definitely a work more when they bought Mom always had a vision of and I wasn't part of any of these buying conversations. I'm just assuming from how much I know about her, is when they were rolling over the idea of purchasing the business from Rick and Linda, when that was thrown out to Mom from Linda and Rick, she started to calculate. She's very calculated. She started to calculate a vision of what she wanted the next chapter of the Linda's brand to look like. And it was I want to stay true to the brand, but I want to grow the brand. And not that Linda and Rick did not want it to grow. Don't let me say that. But she had a different way of thinking it could grow. And January 1st, 2012, that vision took place. And she has grown it exponentially since then. And I don't think you give yourself enough credit, but that's fine. You're not good at self-promotion, neither am I. But it's really cool how when you purchased the business, you had you owned it, but it brings you a different level of ownership, obviously, because you do own it. But mentally, you're really in it. Like, this is your full-blown livelihood now.
Yeah, exactly.
I
had that total dedication to the Taylors because they helped me grow so much, and they taught me so much. I mean, I learned so much from the way they did business, the honesty, the integrity. I mean, I learned so much. But then, it helped me to stabilize me and got me ready for the next phase, like you said. And I did have a plan, and Darren and I just talked, and we would constantly talk about what's next. How can we grow this? How can we leave the brand, keep the integrity of the brand, but also grow it in today's society and where we need to pivot to,
Right.
and how do we need to set it up for the kids, right? Because initially it was like, how do we set it up for Corey and Ryan? And then Ryan took a whole nother path, and he was like, Mom, I'm okay. Let Corey do that. I'm flying. That's what it ended up being.
I'm flying with thread. Ryan's flying with planes.
Exactly,
It's fine.
exactly. So yeah, and so then we just kind of grew from there. And as we were doing that, again, I had to step back from even thinking about it being a hobby and just focus. So that way Corey could finish college, and he got out of college, and then he got to explore more and then get on the quilting more. And then it really was watching him grow and watching him shine that was more important for me than for me to sit back and go, can you teach me this? Can I do this?
Right.
I didn't need to do those things because
Right.
you were doing it, right? And I wanted to make sure you had the success and that you could do that.
Thanks, Mom. I would also like to bring in, so you're at that era in our timeline, basically, my college era.
Yeah.
Mom was very persistent that if I go to college, she did not force me to go to college. I wanted to go. But if I go to college, I have, she will help, but I have to figure out how to pay for it.
Yeah.
Majority of the way. So that is when I had to take a back seat a little bit from my passion of quilting and turn it in my hobby of quilting, not my passion. We're getting passion and hobby mixed up. My hobby of quilting, and step back and turn it more into a job.
Yeah.
And especially when I went off to university in Denton, I wanted to live on campus.
Yeah.
I got my associates here at Collin, but then for the next 2 years, I wanted to live on campus and get the full university life.
Yep.
She was not paying for that experience. She said, you can live here and drive back and forth to school. And I said, no, I want to live in Denton. But I still wanted to be there to help the business. Yeah. So I went to school Tuesdays and Thursdays in Denton, and then drove on lovely 380. If anyone's been around here, you know University 380.
Yeah.
You know the...
You know.
You know. I drove, it was about an hour.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2 with traffic. I would drive 4 days a week from Denton to McKinney and work. And I really had to kick it into a job because I wanted to have the money to fund my college life. And that was just, one of those things. So I really had to take a back seat to my hobby of quilting. I don't think I really quilted that much. I didn't really do a lot of classes or anything until I graduated college because I wanted to live on campus at school.
Yeah.
Now, granted, could I have gotten a job in Denton? Yes, but I knew my job so well that the drive really wasn't that big of a deal to me.
Yeah, well, that's where the passion kicked in, right?
Yeah.
So where it kind of branches off to, I mean, we could scroll a lot in this video, but it kind of branches off to when you find a hobby, a passion, if you can find a way to turn it into a career, that way you can love what you do.
Right.
Then when there's times that you can't do it, you still have that passion to get to work and get it done.
Right.
Because you know at the end of the day, this is what you love.
Right.
So anytime you can find a job that you love, right? And it could be, it could be anything.
It could be anything. But definitely it was a true passion. Mom doesn't want to know the full-blown details of this story, but there would be nights, I would be doing college things, and I would have to be at work the next morning by 8, and I just got to bed at 5 o'clock, and I'd have to wake up at 6 and get to work. It was just, it was that passion. I wanted to be there. But I wanted to also be at school too, so it was those really those.
So believe
cool
it or not,
things.
I knew those things.
But we're not talking about how you knew them.
But I also knew that you had such a love for what you were doing.
Yeah.
And that the way that I raised you as well was it was important to follow through with your commitments.
Right.
And you always did that. You found a way to put some of that stuff aside, even though it would be kicking and screaming sometimes internally.
Sometimes externally.
To be able to. Do what you had to do, right? Yeah. And I think that's true to anybody. I think that if you have that drive, right, to take that passion that you have and whatever it is, for Ryan it's aviation, for you it's quilting, I love art. You know, I love quilting, but I haven't had enough time to learn more, and I am doing it now, and it's so exciting.
You're doing it now, yeah.
And that, you know, it's just having that one, and it could be fitness, it could be medical, it could be anything for whoever.
Darren's
right?
is fishing.
Darren's is fishing.
Yeah, everyone has their thing.
Yeah, and he wasn't able to do any of that stuff while we were working so hard, and now that he's retired, he fishes and he loves it and he's happy, right?
And he has a YouTube channel. Is it Heiner Stone?
Heiner Stone.
Heiner Stone. So Heiner Stone Stone. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. I'm telling all of you right now. Please go subscribe and watch my dad and my mother when she takes that truck. Go watch his adventure. It's quite interesting. If you know Darren, like he's set up your machine, or you've seen him at a maintenance thing, or you've seen him at a show, or you've seen him in the office, you're seeing a completely different side of him on YouTube. So Heiner Stone, go subscribe to the channel, watch these videos. He finds some really beautiful places.
Yeah, he does.
We're squirreling, but he needs subscribe, support him, please. But he finds some really beautiful places, and going on those nature walks, and going on those kayaking trips, and going on those fishing, and those hiking. In those some places his truck probably shouldn't be going, hills, like those. He finds some really cool places, and he films it all on his little GoPro. Yeah. He's so proud. He edits the videos.
Yes, he does.
It's really cool. He does biking, all sorts of stuff on there.
And I can't wait to join him. So I'll be joining him soon to be able to do a lot of video takes too. So then you get to see me too.
Yeah, she's gonna be doing more of the
adventure,
the glamping,
the glampy side,
and she'll be doing those things, and he'll be roughing it,
and the cruising and the things like that. Anyway. But to squirrel, gosh, we did squirrel on that one.
It's my show. We can do whatever
there
we want.
You go. But yeah, so again, it's just fun to be able to have something that you enjoy if you have the luxury or the ability. I mean, it's not luxury because it's the hard work. We put hard work into it.
You have to put hard work into it.
So I used the wrong word there, but the hard work that you put into doing a job that you enjoy, and it could be part of the hobby as well.
For sure.
So where Corey finally got to turn it back a little bit more into having it as a hobby on the side, work as well. He still works constantly.
The day of my graduation from college, I was able to turn back more into a hobby.
Yeah.
The second I graduated, I walked the stage, sat back down, we got up, we threw our hats, I went outside, I took photos of my family, I jumped in my mom's car, and we headed down to Galveston because I had to teach on a cruise the next day.
Yes, you did. That timing was impeccable.
Timing was perfect.
Yeah.
So we had to be in Galveston the next morning so I could go teach quilting, long arm computerized quilting on a cruise. I was there for a week. So while they were on deck 10 living their best lives at the Sellaway party, dancing around, I was down on deck 2 below the waterline, basically, teaching all of you how to use your machines more effectively.
Yeah, you know, and you just have grown since then and have loved it since then, right?
It's been incredible.
But there's still times that even since 2017, you know, it's 2024 now.
Right now, yeah.
Where you've had to like put the hobby aside for work.
I've had to, yeah.
And figure out like, how do I get all these things done so that way I can go back to my hobby? How do I still love what I do?
Right.
Right? Because there's also going to be times in life that you'll be at a job that, yes, you love the concept of the job. You love what is happening. And I think I see a lot of this in friends that are in healthcare. Because that's hard. I can't even
hard
imagine
work,
that one. That you really love and you have a passion and a dedication to your career and your job, but it's become so hard. You know, it's like, how do I keep moving on and keep doing that and not let my love for what I'm doing slip aside?
Yeah.
Right? So I think for the things that I've done, I'll just say some things that I've done recently to try to help slow down the job mindset of my mind and try to enjoy a hobby a little bit more because I really had to start finding that balance. And I think that really kicked in about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. Honestly, I think it was 2020, like when COVID hit. Not
a year ago, maybe 2 years ago,
well,
4 years ago.
I didn't get to really kick in though, but the mindset kicked in. So when I think it just when COVID hit, we all went through all that. We saw the importance of family, the importance of self, the importance of self-care. I think that's when I realized I needed to slow down just a little bit and find a little bit of self-care for me as well. Because I am aging, going through menopause, all those different things, and I just needed to like, hey, I want to be able to be here for my grandkids. I want to be able to be here for everything. So how do I find that balance?
Right.
So it's like I said, that's with anything. So it's finding that balance.
I think when you're talking about finding balance, I've finally gotten to that point. It's taken me a while to figure out balance. I'm still figuring it out. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still figuring it out. But I spend a lot of time now not organizing what I'm gonna do, but planning out, I guess. Like I'll spend 3 days at my desk focusing on my job and like working really, really hard. Not that I don't work hard, but working harder, 150% versus 125%, to plan out what's going to happen for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
So that way, once those 3 hard days are done, then I can go and film all my content and have fun quilting and do whatever. And then they all line up into those. And then I spend another 3 days working really hard, sometimes a week.
Yeah.
It just depends on what the month is holding and the next 2 months are holding, and sometimes what the quarter is holding.
Yeah, exactly.
So then I can figure out how I want to maintain it.
Yeah, and that's what that, and that's. I'm glad you said that, because the segment for me to bring into that is that scheduling time for yourself, for that hobby, for that self-care, for that balance. So I think sometimes, I know watching you, and I need to get better at this, but watching you, you're able to schedule times with your friends. So if you schedule a date with your friend, you're less likely to cancel that time than you are if you're just scheduling time on your own.
Right.
So if I say, hey, Diana, you're going to take off this afternoon to go and enjoy something that you really enjoy.
Right.
But you're not doing it with anybody.
Right.
But it's okay. You're just going to have fun. When that 12 o'clock hits and you've got all these things that just piled up, you're more likely to go, I'll just postpone that and do that another day.
Yeah.
However, if I have a friend on tack and that friend is counting on me, that part of my brain that is like dependent, like, I made a commitment, I'm going to do this, will say, you know what, that's going to wait because, I already made a commitment. I need to do that commitment.
Correct.
So I think sometimes if you can schedule something with a friend or a retreat in the quilting world, you're more likely to take the break and do it than if you just try to schedule for yourself.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you don't schedule for yourself, right? Yeah. I mean, I still think there's times that you can even take 15, 20, 30-minute break, walk around outside if you're at an office building, listen to a podcast, maybe take a little art or project to work, things like that, just to take a break mentally from what you're doing so that way you can enjoy your hobby a little bit.
Right.
But it's just really finding that balance for yourself, because it's important mentally for us, right, to have that for our self-care, for everything. But another thing that I found that is if you're trying to figure out how to get started, right, it's like, how do I even start doing that? How do I I don't even know where to go. I mean, for me, it was, I worked 6 days a week. I worked 12-hour days. I mean, it used to be that way. And I don't even know where to start. I don't even have time. Because by the time I get home, I don't even want to think about, in the quilting. I don't want to think about crafts. I don't want to think about my art. I just want to go lay down.
Right.
Right. I just want to
climb in bed
look at
and
Netflix
turn on TV.
and just kind of think about somebody else's life for a while.
Right.
Not because I'm not appreciative of mine, because I just need a mental break.
You need an escape sometimes.
Yeah. So then I, with slowing down a little bit and taking my own advice and then watching Corey with what he does. I've actually taken some advice from you, believe it or not.
Thank you. Full circle moment, folks.
Is starting off with a small project.
Yeah.
Don't do anything big at the beginning. Like for me, it would be like a small, taking a panel, and I've done that a few times, where I take a panel and just add a border on, like keeping it really simple so you can accomplish it that day, so you can feel like I'm finished, I did something, I love it, and that inspires you to get back in there again.
Correct.
Where I think if you, and this might not be for everybody, but for me, if you start off with a really big, huge Judy Niemeyer project, right? Yeah. You're more likely not to finish that for a very long time if you are working still. I
think I've got projects in my closet from when I was in college, that I took on a 100 by 100 quilt, and I went, this isn't for me, or I didn't get the concept, or I was frustrated because I was trying to teach myself a new technique, and something happened. I just put it to the side. But I agree, starting on those little smaller, maybe 20 by 20 projects or something like that you can finish. That's really good. I got to see that work in your favor yesterday, as we were trying out something new that we'll be talking about later on in the time. Yep. But we got to try out something new in a smaller format, and you were able to finish it yesterday, and you lit up. Yeah. She started off not lit up, folks.
No,
let me
wasn't.
tell you, she was ready to flip the table. It wasn't going to work. She was sewing a new thing, and you were ready to flip the table.
I wasn't ready to flip the table.
No, she did
I don't
this.
have that kind of anger,
this is what she does.
I was ready to kind of maybe I'll stop.
Mentally, she was ready to flip the table. She was like, I don't get it. And turn this way. And so after, because my grandma was there too, and grandma was getting it, but grandma's sewn for a long, long time. And so once I sat down with mom and showed her a couple of different things, she was like, "Oh," and it just clicked, and she was going to town. I just sat on my phone from the rest of the day.
It just had
She
to
was
click for
doing
me,
it.
right? It's just
Yeah.
finding the right method for that to click. But,
Right.
whatever your love is starting off small. So that way you can continue loving it and you can continue making sure you find the time and find the balance to do it. And if that means you still work every day full time and you could be doing that for the next 10, 15, 20 years or whatever, it's still doing small projects at a time. So to find the balance mentally for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And so for a long time, probably for the last 2 years. Well, ever since COVID and stuff, it's getting a panel, finding a panel I love, and just adding a different border on.
Right.
Because it's something that I can accomplish in a day. It's something that I can get quilted eventually, and it's something that I feel like I've completed.
Right.
And then I can put that aside and do the next one, next small project. For me, now moving forward, when I have more time off, maybe I'll branch off into a big project. But I'm all about. For me, my mind is all about accomplishment.
Instant gratification.
So
I am as well.
it's about how do I finish it? How do I accomplish it? I need to see the finished product. I put all this hard work in.
It's true.
And I need to check it off my box. So if you know me, I have like a full list.
She always has a list of things.
A list of everything every day.
Well, and I think that comes into the point. Like, if you are working on a project that might be a little bit larger, set up some type of, even if it's the floor or your kitchen table, some type of design space to start laying out that project so you can see it coming together. Because yesterday, another big thing that she was a little tiny about was she was building these pieces, and I had them just set them in a pile. And she just saw the pile going up, but she was like, there's just a pile. So I went and laid them out so she could see it. And when she walked up, she still had a couple more pieces to go. But when she walked up and saw as it was coming together, she was like, oh, it was like got a whole other sense of, I can do this. I'm doing it. Back to the machine I go.
Yeah.
It's like a second wind for you almost.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was, again, another squirrel, but woohoo. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So as the year is rolling out, You've talked about a lot that you're ready to slow down and enjoy life a little bit more and enjoy not having to work as much. How does that translate when it's coming from this was what you thought about 12 hours a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, your whole life to I don't have to think about that as much. I can enjoy it a little bit more. How are you getting yourself off of that cliff? That ledge safely? How are you taking the zip line down?
Oh my goodness, I wasn't ready for this one. Not on this podcast.
I think that's a good question. I think it's a good people. We're talking about balance.
Yeah.
And sometimes after, you're getting into more of your hobby, maybe when you're retiring or changing jobs or anything.
Yeah.
How does one shift their brain to help that?
I don't know. You tell me. That's a hard one because I am in my slowing down phase.
Yeah.
In this career, because I've been working since I was 14 years old. Just working. That was just how I had to do it back then. So slowing down after doing this for almost 25 years, it's something that I have to find, right? So I've in the last few months, I finally started slowing down a little bit more. I don't work on weekends anymore, except for trade shows when I went to the show. Sure. So that way I can find balance in doing craft projects, like I did one with you yesterday. I've done some art projects, just kind of figuring out what that next phase in life will be. So that way when I do slow down all the way, that I can also enjoy that phase, right? And maybe find something small different to do to keep my mind active as I grow older. So I think I would say if you're starting to slow down, start to think about your next phase. What do you want to do? Start working into that next thing that you think you might want to do.
That's exactly. I think you just hit the nail on the head. Is slowly implementing, which I've seen you do. The last probably 6 months.
Yeah.
You're slowly implementing a little bit more time for yourself, or you're implementing one more project that you want to do, or something. So it's not like a complete shock whenever you are ready to slow down.
Exactly.
And who knows when that day will be for you, but whenever you're ready to retire, whenever that day happens, So it's not a big shock, and you're just staring at the wall like, what do I do? Well, I've
Yeah.
already got a list of things that I've been doing, and this list I want to keep doing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear, I guess, kind of your feedback on how you start transitioning from that job to
Back to the hobby, yeah.
even if your hobby is not your job, or vice versa. Like,
Yeah.
even if I, like, say I was a doctor, which is what I was going to be, ladies and gentlemen, but then
Yeah.
I got to realize what med school was like, and it was not for me. You know, even if I was that, but then I wanted my hobby to be quilting. Like, those are two completely different realms.
Correct.
How do I start transitioning myself to that? And I was thinking on that same path.
Yeah.
You slowly start implementing those things. So
Well,
it's
that's a great
easy
topic because we do
transition.
have a lot of viewers that aren't quilters full
No.
time yet because they have careers.
Correct.
You know,
Or
whether they're a
accountants
teacher,
or
accountants,
teachers,
doctors,
real estate
PAs.
agents.
I mean, it could be anything.
We have so
We've
many
met
things.
so many different people.
Graphic design artists, laser cutting people. Like, we've had
Yeah.
so many different
Yeah,
things.
we have met so
many amazing people. Yeah.
people over the years that have the talents and the things that they came from, the world that they came into. You know, I think it's doing some research, taking a class, watching some videos, just, you know, watching our YouTube, getting ideas of things, testing out small little projects to see
Yeah.
if this is a passion that you can love
Right.
moving forward. And if it is, and I hope it is, because it's an amazing passion.
a lot of fun,
It's
yeah.
a lot of fun. You know, slowly implementing little projects, doing a weekend class, maybe a weekend retreat, joining a quilting guild.
Yeah.
So that way you can meet like-minded people that are probably, some of them will be from the same field of industry that you're in, and you
Probably,
just don't
yeah.
know that, and they found this is their balance to escape from their reality, right?
Yeah, I think you mentioned a good point too when you said take a class or take something.
Yeah.
If, like, for long arming especially, because that's like a big investment if you want to buy a machine.
Yes,
If
yeah.
you're thinking about, like, you're in a completely different field right now, and you're thinking about I might want a long arm quilt and then turn that into a business or just do it as a hobby.
Yeah.
Definitely see if you can find a play or a show in your area, or take
There
a
you go,
class
yeah.
and get on a machine.
Yeah.
Because you might get on it, like Grandma. She got on her machine. She had one. She was like, "Yeah, I like it, but I think I'd rather piece. I like being at my sewing machine. I like piecing projects, and I like to see you quilt them."
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to take that big investment sometimes that you could put towards something else
Yeah.
if you don't really know 100%. So I think taking those slow, steady steps.
Exactly. And you might
can
get
help
on,
out.
go to that long arm class or be at a show and get on and be so addicted to know that,
Yep.
you know what?
This is what I want to do.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
we've had a lot of customers, because a lot of customers do talk to us and have talked to us over the years, like, what for ideas and suggestions. They still want to work, but yet they want to do this as their retirement business. And I have seen a lot of successful ones that have continued working, started this business slowly, right? While they still had income coming
They
in
did to help pay for that. Yeah.
to pay for
To
it.
help pay for it,
So by
yeah.
the time that they were retired, their long arms were paid for, their business was paid for, and then they could just focus on growing their retirement business and really enjoy what they're doing.
And not stress about making a
not
long arm
stress about
payment
it.
and this and that.
Yeah. So again, that becomes like the research, right? You know, you could start it, you know, when you're ready, getting closer to retirement. You were just asking about that as well.
Yeah.
When you're getting closer to retirement, find the hobby that you really think that you're going to enjoy. Go investigate it. You know, do classes, hobby, whatever
Anything.
it is.
Yeah.
And then slowly start building that up while you know you still have an income coming in.
Yeah.
So that way there's no stress once you do fully retire.
Right.
And then you can just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. It's still a small job, but it's a hobby too. You're going to make some money just to pay for those little fun trips or those extra little gifts that you want or things that you want, but you get to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, this one that's that research phase is starting that mental balance.
Yeah.
We've been talking about balance.
Yeah.
At the beginning, we talked about between your hobby and your job, or
Correct.
job and hobby. Now, as you're transitioning into a different portion of your life, you're finding that mental balance that I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I don't need to work 80,000 hours a week.
Yeah.
I'm totally exaggerating, but some people do. To do this and this and this.
Yeah.
I found that balance that I've done all my research. This is what I can do, and now I can enjoy my hobby, whatever your hobby may be. We just have more insight on quilting and sewing.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why we're talking about quilting and sewing.
Right.
Because of the insight and the craft industry and things like that.
Right.
But yeah, I think we've hit the nail on the head on most of it, right? I'm sure
Yeah.
we missed a few things, and you guys could please put questions in the comments if you'd like. We love answering questions. But at the end of the day, it's about how to find that balance either way.
Yeah.
Hobby to job, job to hobby. How do I find that balance and make sure that I'm enjoying life? I have the mental balance, right?
Gotta have that mental balance.
Because that's important.
Gotta have a hobby too, though. You know, when people ask what's your
Yeah.
hobby, even if it's something small, you have to have something that you can escape to.
You do.
The world we live in is a world. Let's just say that. And you want to have that. This is my little space where I can do what I want to do. Like this little cove right here. This is my little space where I can do what I want to do. Like it's my job, but this is more my hobby. Like this, I don't have to have a podcast. I do because it's fun.
Yeah.
Like I just
Well,
like
you enjoy
chatting.
creating. You enjoy
Oh, yeah.
quilting.
No,
You
this is
enjoy
all fun.
the showing everybody the things that they can do. Right?
Yeah,
You
the things that
So
you are
loving
capable of doing.
Your job, that's a hobby, makes it a huge difference.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So no,
I'm just lucky that my job and my hobby are the same.
Yeah, no, I get that. Well, I mean, and it brings me back to, like, for years, people would ask me what my hobby was.
Yeah.
People outside this industry, you know, if I met somebody at church or, like, you're filling out the thing, like, what's your hobby? And you're like,
I don't know.
I don't really have one right now because I'm working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I can't even think to build a hobby.
Right.
So
My hobby is hitting the bed.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so if you're in that phase of life that I was a few years ago, well, for a long time, but I finally started figuring things out. And that you've been asked, you know, you've gotten that piece of paper and you've seen that blank hobby. What's your hobby? Filling out something online. What's your hobby? And you've gone blank.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is like a sign. It's like start researching a hobby, no matter what it is.
Yeah, something small.
Something and keep it small. Yeah, start small, and then
start
you can
small.
grow it.
Yeah, start small.
And so that way you have an escape, because I didn't have an escape all those years. My escape was, you're right, I'd go to my room and turn on TV, which I could have been doing something more interesting and enjoying more. I kind of started isolating myself from the world, isolating myself from family, because I was so tired. I was just like, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. You know, I would put everything into work, and then for a while I put everything into work in church, and then I would go, and then I would just try to find those balances throughout that, but I never could find that hobby. Yeah. So when I finally started painting again, and then I started piecing again, and I just like, I love this. You know, I just put my earbuds on and I'm just like happy.
Yeah, you just kind of just disappear a little bit into a different realm.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to do that.
And now that
whatever your hobby is.
Exactly. So find that. That way when you get that next piece of paper, which is probably more digital now, but you fill out that next little survey for somebody and there's that space for hobby, you can put that hobby in there. Yeah. Right?
Like I have a good friend, Rachel. She works in the healthcare field, and that's what she sees every day. And she says it's a lot to handle. Yeah. But her escape is when she comes home. Her husband has outfitted their garage to be her craft garage, and she makes t-shirts, hats, embroidery, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And she said it's such a great escape because she'll just crank up the music, and it takes her out of that crazy 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 8 to 4, whatever she's doing that day. And puts her into something more serene and more exciting. And she's turned it into a business as well. She has an Etsy shop. It's really cool to watch.
Yeah, and so when she's totally done with the medical field, she's already got this business going, and she can even thrive even more at that point.
Right, exactly.
But you found something like how it goes into your next phase in life. You know, like where do we start and how do we get to that next phase in life so that way we can move forward. And I know a lot of our viewers are either there or waiting to get there and getting closer to get there, you know. Yeah. And so hopefully that's a few tips to kind of help you on that journey.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun talking about hobby and job and hobby.
Job and
hobby. Alrighty. Well, thank you all so much for watching today at Corey's Cast or listening wherever you're listening to. Again, please make sure you're subscribed to our channel or following that page wherever you're listening to this podcast. And another shout out to the family channel. Make sure you go follow Darren and eventually my mother on their journeys, and their YouTube channel is Heiner Stone. You get to follow all of their fun videos and journeys. Go subscribe to that channel on YouTube.
Thank you. Be a lot of fishing stuff right now, but you know, next year there's going to be more.
Yeah, the fishing stuff, you get to see some really cool places.
You do actually.
You get to see some really pretty stuff in the hiking. So definitely make sure you go do that. I think that's all for us today at Corey's Cast, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.